We'll take an atheist caller. Oh, Spencer, you're here in Austin. You're on with Matt and Jenna. Is it Austin, Texas you're from?
That's true. How are you guys doing?
Why the hell are you calling? You could have just driven down.
I could have, but yeah.
How you doing, man? I'm just giving you a hard time for fun.
It's all good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
I'm calling in just to kind of ask a kind of philosophical question about happiness in life. I was raised in a kind of, I guess you could call it like a fundamentalist Christian cult that is less than like 1 million members worldwide. And in my area, growing up in Round Rock, it was probably just me and like my siblings and some cousins in the, hundreds of students in my school zone that were even remotely related to this type of religious group. But at age 18, after living a life being fully convinced of it, I had like one thought, and it was, what if I'm wrong? And then my whole faith kind of, slowly started to be dismantled.
Yeah, that's a powerful thought.
Yeah, very powerful. And it kind of caused a existential crisis that I'm still dealing with 3 years later. But I am much more equipped now to deal with, the logical fallacies of any, truth claim made by any theist or, any proposition. But, and I know, like, objectively, based on, I don't know if objective is the right word, but I know that logically I should be able to live a happy, fulfilling life secularly, right? But I'm kind of having trouble with this whole, and it's probably because of my conditioning, being told that I'm going to be immortal. But I kind of have trouble with this whole death thing, kind of, I've become very uninterested in most things. It's kind of, you call it a depression for sure, but I don't feel, it's like this very existentialist, like, why do anything? And so I was wondering what your guys' perspective is on kind of, if we're all going to die, and
yes,
maybe the best explanation is that we're going to go, completely quiet, and it's going to be just like before we were born, which, I'm not actually scared of that concept. I'm just kind of scared of not existing,
Why? Did it bug you the first time you didn't exist?
It's a good point. I think it's less than I'm not. That's a very good point. It's less than I'm scared of it, and it's more of just
that you're pissed that you don't get to live forever. That other people get to keep living and experiencing stuff, and you're not. Yeah, I'm pissed too.
Yeah.
I've been learning a lot about emotions and how to handle them and deal with them. And when you think about something that makes you feel a certain way, I've learned that when you think about it in a different way, a lot of times that will change the way that you feel about it. And that's, in my experience, the easiest way to make you change the way that you feel about it. So when I think about why I feel scared of something, it's usually because something might happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what's going to happen, and being scared is not going to motivate you to do anything differently, it's not going to benefit you in any way, then maybe I think that you're doing the right thing by asking a different perspective and trying to find out a way to get that emotion out of your way, because it's not beneficial, right? To be scared of something that you literally can't do anything about. You can't not die, right?
Yeah. Did you get to watch the shows, the last couple of shows where Dave Warnock was on?
I think I watched all of it.
Yeah, he's dying. The whole thing is dying out loud. There's a lot of complicated emotions and problems related to dying, and I think most of them are because religions give us a perspective for which there's no reason to think is true, and it's almost like they convinced you that you're gonna inherit $1 billion at 40, and then as you start approaching 40, you start figuring out, hang on, what if I'm not going to inherit $1 billion? And then when you get to 42 and you don't have $1 billion, now you're regretting decisions you made for the first part of your life because you were making those decisions based on the promise of $1 billion, and now it looks like you're never going to get that. That's all incredibly frustrating. When Hitchens was dying, and we were all at the Texas Freethought Convention, he pointed out that it was not so much that the party was over. It was that the party's going to continue, but he's being asked to leave. And that is an incredibly annoying position to be in. But the only reason it's annoying is because at some point somebody convinced you that you weren't going to have to leave the party. If you began with the recognition, I'm going to have to leave the party, it would be nice if you knew when. Like I have to leave this party at 1 o'clock. If you knew that, you could enjoy yourself right up until it was very close to time to go. But if you don't know when you're going to have to leave the party, and you spend the entire party anxious over the fact that you might have to leave at any moment, you can't enjoy that party.
Well, so that's the thing, is I have a very different perspective on that, and I actually shared it on my new show. But I had Dave Warnock on, and we talked about it because being an atheist and having that initial reaction and realization that I don't know what's going to happen after I die, right? And I did get scared. The new perspective that I took was the fact that I realized how lucky I am to get each and every day that I do get, considering how many different ways there are to die. And the fact is that I could die tomorrow. That just means that it's even more important that I spend my time not wasting it. And I think that worrying, I'm a very, very anxious person, and I spend a lot of time worrying. I've cut back on that because I realize there's no benefit to me to worry about things that I can't do anything about. And so it's gotten me to be more mindful and live in the moment more and say, you know what? I don't give a shit what's going to happen later. I'm going to live for today because I know I have today, right? So I'm just going to enjoy today. And if tomorrow's not there, whatever. I'm going to just, every day, I'm just going to live like this is what I've got.
This comes with a bit of caution. She's not saying, I'm going to live as if there is no tomorrow.
Right.
Because if you live as if there's no tomorrow, tomorrow's going to suck when it shows up.
Right.
She's talking about living today as if it were the last, knowing that, because let's face it, I do this show a lot. I've done it for 14 some odd years. There's a non-zero, non-trivial chance that I will die on the air. That I will be in a call with somebody trying to tell me about heart attacks when I'll have one. And if we're not able to get an ambulance here, if it's too severe, there's a non-zero chance I'll die on the air. I'd kind of like to do that. Of all the ways that I could die, apart from like the ones that everybody else offers up of, oh, I'd like to die in my sleep at old age surrounded by my grandchildren. Screw that. I'd rather die during sex or on the show. Now, at the end of the day, I'll be dead, so it's not like I'll remember how I died or care how I died. But if I had my druthers, knowing that there's going to be a story written about me after the fact, he died doing the things that he loved.
Yeah.
That's the real thing. It's not about the show or the sex. It's about doing the things that you love and care about. But religions have poisoned all of our minds and have made it very difficult for us to deal with the hard facts about death, which is why I love having Dave Warnock on and other people, because we need to do a better job making sure that people can die with dignity, that they are in control of their destiny. And we have a responsibility, because not everybody who happens to be suicidal is in a position where that may be the best option. You don't want people just offing themselves for temporal problems. But it's undeniable that at some point, for some people, death is preferable to life. It's a difficult subject, but our entire perspective on it, even for people who've never been religious, is colored by religion, because religions have informed our society about what life is and what death is. And I've said before, I'm of the opinion that if we started teaching people from the beginning that as far as we know, this is the one and only life you get, you need to make the best of it while you're here. You need to live each day doing the things that you love, trying to make the world better just in case you're here tomorrow, or just in case your offspring is here tomorrow, or somebody you give a rat's ass about is here tomorrow. So when you asked earlier on, if there's nothing after this, what's the point in doing anything? Life is its own reward.
Agreed.
The point of doing something is that the alternative is to do nothing. And the point of existing is because the alternative is to not exist. And while it didn't bother me when I didn't exist previously, and it won't bother me when I don't exist in the future, I'd rather exist right up until a moment where non-existence is preferable. If the quality of my life becomes such that continued existing is not desirable in any sense, then I want to be able to end it.
But it would also be in the sense that, like, when you sign up for, when you get a new car, there's a waiting period, right? And so if you were to decide, my life is not preferable, then I think there should be some kind of a waiting period. Let's wait a year or two and see if it's still not preferable.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I don't disagree. All of those conversations need to happen between a person and their doctor, or perhaps even a panel. Oh my God, Matt just advocated for death panels. That's not the same thing. I'm talking about how do we get people. I think if people were taught early on that death is an inevitable part of life and that grieving is a normal human emotion and that while people don't actually live on in our memories of them are the things, they're all we have. Your brain is all you have. Everything you know and experience about life is all processed by your brain. And if you don't feed that brain, and if you give it garbage, if you don't train it, then you're going to sit there in this existential angst. And I don't just mean you specifically, Spencer, but you could waste the only life that you have worrying about when it's going to end.
Right.
And to me, that's just wasting time. There's so many better things I could be doing. I could be volunteering. I could be helping homeless people. I could be, trying to make somebody happy, go to a nursing home, talk to some lonely people. There's just so many better things you can do than just sit there and worry about things that are going to happen. And
the example that I've used before when people say, well, what's the point in doing anything? Okay, I have a truck out there that I bought a couple of years ago. Eventually that truck is going to be rusting away, completely useless to anybody and just decaying to its constituent parts. Does that mean that truck's not valuable to me now? Should I just drive it over to the dump right now and say, you're going to end up here eventually, let's go ahead and, take you out back?
Right.
Because if I do that, now all of a sudden I got to walk home, and I really don't want to walk home. Not in Texas. I'd rather have my air conditioner and my monstrous planet-killing machine that thankfully Jenna did not reference earlier when we were talking about changes we could make. But
yeah,
I have a couple questions real quick for you, Spencer.
Sure.
Are you involved with any secular community? Do you have interaction with other people who are no longer believers on any kind of regular basis?
It's a good question, and no, I need to.
Yeah, come on down. You're here in town.
Come down right now if you can.
I mean, we're
going to eat soon.
It's Sunday. There's no traffic. There'll be food here. You can meet and talk to plenty of people. But it's an important aspect because if you are sitting around dealing with these things on your own, I'm not convinced that that is the best way to handle pretty much anything. Everybody needs some help. Now, I say everybody, and somebody's going to email. Obviously, if you don't need anybody, I wasn't talking to you. I'm talking about everybody else. But by and large, we're social creatures. And even those of us, like myself, who frequently appreciate being alone, we also need... Jenna knows, while Matt may sit around and enjoy his time alone, Matt desperately needs people on many occasions. And thankfully, I have Jenna. I have the people here at the Atheist Community of Austin. I have the guests who come into town. I have friends outside of the atheist community. I have people who love me, people who I love, people who we can sit down and we can talk about a movie. We can interact about all kinds of things. We can do a 4-letter word, life. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's what you got.
See, anybody who thought I was going to go to fuck, I thought about it, but life is the one that's actually more important. You don't have to be alone, and you are fortunate because in many cities, there are not really robust secular communities. You live in one where there is, and we would welcome you. Now, I'm not trying to put pressure on you because you may not be up for it. You may not be up for it today. But the Atheist Community of Austin Free Thought Library is open pretty much 7 days a week, 11 to 9. There's big crowds here on Sundays with plenty of people to interact with. There's philosophy clubs on Wednesday. There's gaming groups. There's all kinds of stuff that you can participate in, and not just you, Spencer. Anybody in the Austin area who's atheist or atheist friendly can come down and find community here. If that's what you're needing, we'll see you in a little while.
It's also online if you can't, if you're not here. It's online.
Yeah. I did want to ask one more thing. I think there was something like this kind of like this reference point, kind of when I was living as a theist, as a very Christian theist. Things seemed to have. I mean, hindsight is a fickle thing, but things I remember having like this sense of purpose and this sense of pure joy is what I would call it, and kind of since living secularly, it's hard to kind of pinpoint what the way I should look at things to appreciate things, like to
well,
love.
religions provide comfort, because one of the most uncomfortable things is not knowing, and religions convince you that you know when you don't. One of the most uncomfortable things is being alone, and religions provide community so that you're not alone. The
Right.
joy comes from not realizing, the old ignorance is bliss thing. It's true. If you're unaware of the fact that the universe doesn't give a rat's ass about you, that whatever purpose or meaning you have in life is something that's going to have to come from you, that life is its own reward, and when it ends, as far as you can tell, it's over, and anything else is a bonus plan that we don't have access to. Those are uncomfortable truths that religions hide from people. And that is why you can feel this joy and bliss, because it feels like someone has convinced you there's a being that created you and cares about you, and when you feel alone or when you don't have anything to do, don't worry, God's got you. The problem is,
Right.
if that's not true, which it appears there's no reason to think it is true, then you've been believing somebody has got you and leaving it in their hands when they don't. And even if somebody else had you, wouldn't it be smarter to make sure that you've got your own back?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Have you ever made a gratitude list?
Ooh, I haven't.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually have an open note and like a note-taking software that I have called Gratitude, where I intended to do just that, and I haven't started it.
Start it. I am involved in AA, and that's one thing. I know that a lot of people don't support them, but it deconverted me, so I do. One thing that they recommend doing is making gratitude lists when you feel like there's nothing to live for and there's nothing to be sober for. Just when you feel like giving up, make a gratitude list, because it's really hard to feel sorry for yourself when you're thinking about the things that you're thankful for.
That's true.
So just try doing that, once a day, in the morning or at night, when you're trying to shut off or get going. Try doing that once a day and see how see if your perspective changes. And also, obviously, what Matt said, get involved in the community, either online or in person in some way. But it sounds like you might need help. And there are people here like me and Matt that really want to help. That's why we're doing this.
There's probably 25 people on the other side of this glass and more out back. And I guarantee you, I'm not going to make anybody raise their hands. Somebody here has a story that's almost the same as yours. Somebody here is feeling and dealing with the same things you are. And somebody else has found their way through dealing with the things that you're dealing right now. Doing it on your own is an unnecessary and potentially devastating mistake when there's people who are eager and willing to help out and build communities. It's like trying to lift up the back of your car and change your tire on your own when there's 20 people standing around and one of them's got a jack.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, I greatly appreciate your call. We look forward to hopefully seeing you if you're comfortable with it and come down here. But mostly, irrespective of whether you show up here or online, or even if you go the hard way and try to work it all on your own, I hope things improve. And maybe a gratitude list is a good way to start it. Maybe making a list of the things, like I could probably list 20 very serious things in my life that are all manner of fucked up. And what I do, the way that I cope with it is I take a look at the things that I might be able to do something about quickly and easily, and I work on those, and everything else gets set aside. It's still there. I still know they're there. Some of them get put off for far too long and become even bigger problems. But
Right.
That's how life goes.
Yeah.
It's just life. Like it happens.
It's one of those things. Life. When we often talk about it, it's life gets in the way. So like I have a very good friend, was my best friend from high school. He was in my wedding. His family made the cake for the wedding. We haven't spoken probably in 5 or 6 years, and yet I know that if I called him up right now and talked, we'd be talking, and neither one of us would be mad that the other hadn't contacted him in the last few years. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of friends we are. And I don't think either one of us would really say life got in the way, because I think we both have a perspective that it's not life getting in the way. It's just the reality of life that unfortunately you don't get to spend every waking minute with every single person that you love and care about, and it doesn't mean that you love or care about them any less. It's not about life getting in the way. It is about the way is life.
About letting go of controlling things. That's the one thing that I struggled with coming out of religion, is stopping trying to control every single aspect of my life. Just letting go and let whatever's not God.
Right.
You know, just
Well, yeah,
you can't
I really appreciate
change.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, I really appreciate the sound advice and for taking my call. Really quick, just a yes or no question. The church that I was raised in is called the Church with No Name, and I was wondering if you guys have ever heard of its other names, like the 2x2s.
Yeah, the 2x2s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you know much about it? Or?
I don't know tons about it. We've had people call in the past about it, and I remember looking some stuff up probably 7 or 8 years ago. And actually, my ex-wife knows far more about it than I do, because I remember her telling me about it. She's like, "Oh, they're the 2x2s," and she had all this cool little bits of information. Yeah, and so I've at least heard of it. Anybody else? Anybody on the other side of the glass heard of the 2x2s or involved in that?
Lots of no's.
Lots of no's, no yeses. But somebody in the back room is probably going to come running in right after we hang up and say, "Yes, that was me."
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I really hope things get better for you, Spencer. We're here if you feel like reaching out, coming down, everything else. But I got a handful of callers I've got to get to relatively quickly. So,
all right. Thanks, Matt and Jenna.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Hope to meet you soon.
And